Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge. Let's talk horror. Today, I'm joined by tattoo artist Durb Morrison. Durb, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. How you doing, Ken?
Dude, I am so good. So me and Durb got hooked up because we're both a part of the St. Gabriel TV show. Without any spoilers, can you kind of talk about your role in the show?
It's kind of like the perfect role for me, being Mr. Hell City. So I actually play Lucifer, And Jose and Derek, they approached me one year at the Hell City Tattoo Fest. We were having like a zombie competition there.
Yeah.
And they approached me. They talked to me for a while. And they're like, "You'd be perfect for Lucifer, man." And they kind of like asked me if I wanted to, try for the role and stuff like that. So that's pretty much when I got the role of Lucifer. Yeah. And then we filmed a few years ago. We were doing all the parts then, and then we just kind of wrapped up some of the post-production shots and stuff like that.
Which is funny because they walk up to you like, you would be perfect to play the devil. That's what we see when we see you.
I'm like,
but Jose and Derek, two of the coolest guys.
You know what? And when they said that, I was like,
yeah, go ahead.
They are. They're really cool guys. They had a lot of like energy too when they came up. They were like, "Yo, man," and they were just pumped up about it. And as far as like film, tattooing, painting, it's all art to me. So them as artists, I could see like their passion in it. Because normally I would be like, "Yeah, man, I'll be in your show, your movie, or any of that stuff." But when they told me, what was up with I-71 movies and things like that, and they had the energy, I could tell they had the passion. They knew people in the community, so I just thought it was a really good chance to hook up with those guys and take the role on,
And being on set with them, it's like you've done it your whole life, man. They make you feel so comfortable, so welcomed. They're so easy to work for, man.
Yeah, like I've done television and some stuff in the past, but never like this many like speaking lines and acting and acting off of other actors and stuff like that, with like a big cast and a big crew. So it was different. It was exciting, man. And I look forward to it. I know they've spoken to me about some other parts in some future movies that they have coming up where we're going to get a little crazier. So.
Oh, and I can't wait so we can talk about that as well. I would love to have you back on when we could do some of that.
Yeah, man.
And when St. Gabriel drops, obviously everybody that follows me, that I'll be releasing all the information I have. But you're also going to want to follow Durb Morrison as well. I got all his social media links down here in the description. So give him a follow. Make sure you're checking him out. Not only is it with St. Gabriel, but he's the owner of Red Tree Tattoo Gallery. He organizes Hell City Tattoo Fest in Columbus and in Phoenix. It's become actually one of the industry's favorite tattoo conventions that there is. But on top of that, you're the inventor and innovator of True Tubes and True Grips. What can you tell us about that? What's that all about?
Man, it's like one of those. I've been tattooing for about 31 years now, a little over 31 years now. So I kind of had this old school approach. I've been tattooing so long with like steel tubes.
Yeah.
But as the tattoo industry has changed over the last 30 years, everything's kind of gone disposable for safety reasons, sterility reasons, things like that. So I sat back and waited for a while. I was like, I hope somebody develops a product like a disposable tattoo tube that operates like an old school steel tube. So that's kind of one of the things. And I started kind of just Frankensteining parts together, pulling tips out of steel tubes and heat sinking them into, plastic disposable tubes and doing speed tests and all this stuff. And sure as hell, we came up with a winner from our very first product, the True Tube. And that just kind of like, it went crazy in the tattoo industry, man. And I think it kind of didn't revolutionize disposable products, but it gave a different approach to disposable tattoo products. And then since then, I've gone on to do the True Grips, and those like fit over the handle, and it kind of absorbs a lot of the damaging vibrations that artists get, like the carpal tunnel effects that we get from tattooing. So it's funny because a lot of people are like, "Man, I can't tattoo without your True Grips." Like once you try them, they're so comfortable, and you just get used to it. It feels like a pillow in your hand. So I tell people I'm like a crack dealer with them.
Not only for health but safety reasons too, because a lot of people don't realize the vibrations that come on a tattoo machine. I don't want to say gun because I know that it's not a gun, but when you're working with tattoos, that can definitely become stressful, and it can, like you said, carpal tunnel in your hand. So you're looking out for other people, and in that you are also a big fan of writing for Tattoo Magazine, where you also do interviews with tattoo artists from a veteran's perspective. What's that like to interview some of the younger guys? Because I know that for you, it's got to be cool to interview some up and coming tattoo artists, and for them, it's like hanging out with someone that's revolutionary, whether you want to admit it or not. The True Tubes and the True Grips, those have revolutionized tattoos. You know, like you said, there's a lot of people that my guy uses them, you know, so I definitely understand how important they are. That's why it was so important for me to do this and talk about True Tubes and the True Grips with you, because I know how important those are in the tattoo community.
Yeah, the magazine, like writing for the magazine, I kind of write in two different ways for magazines. One, so they're kind of like, the magazines are like whatever you want to write about, man. If you want to interview people, or if you want to give an opinion or a point of view. So I kind of write in a few different aspects. One from like a senior artist mentality of like just common sense stuff that you might not think about, and then some stuff's about health. So like the longevity of the artist and stuff like that. But then it gives me a chance as like an older artist now with seniorities to interview some of the artists that like the young and upcoming artists that I say are like super talented that I may want to do an interview on to kind of let people, let the world know about them, you know, and I know it betters their careers and things like that. So the writing, it gives me another avenue, man. I've been doing this for so long that I like to kind of contribute a lot of different aspects back to tattooing, whether it's actually making tattoos or writing or inventing products or hitting conventions and teaching and stuff like that. I also, you know, all around the world when we were all traveling more, getting back into that. So I try to get back, in like different avenues to what gives me so much, you know, tattooing.
Right, and that's what I say. It's something that you're passionate about, so you can see the passion, whether it's your writing or what you're creating. That passion is always going to come from you because of how passionate you are about your craft, man. And it's so amazing to hear you tell these stories. It's inspirational, man, because it's something you've been so in love with for over 30 years, and you're still kicking ass today.
Yeah, I think a lot of the passion for it becomes, well, one, I was an artist just as a kid growing up, but the passion, even back then, man, like tattooing wasn't super popular in the late 80s, early 90s. It was still kind of had that stigma to it, bikers, convicts, you know. So when I found tattooing, you know, I was in a crazy, wild teenage, getting in trouble and stuff. And it kind of, I found it on my own. It was like a rebel art form back then. I was skateboarding. So like just that skateboarder mentality and seeing like skateboard artwork back then. It was kind of tattoo-ish, you know? So all that stuff just kind of, once I found it, it felt like I was very passionate because I felt like there wasn't a lot of people around me tattooing. Something that I had, you know, it was rebellious and stuff like that. So that's what sparked it. But as I got really into tattooing and like professional tattooing and meeting like the community and the industry, it became more than that to me. You know, it wasn't just wild art. It was actually fine art. It became more of a fine art for me. And like, I started getting into painting and, you know, other aspects that came along with being a tattooer. So no, it's definitely been a passion driven, you know, career over time. And I feel like I've given back. And made traction with it, you know.
Well, and for me, I know this may be a silly comparison, but the guy that does my tattoos, it's like my hairstylist for a female, you know, like once I find you, that's it. We're locked in. I'm going to you. We become friends. We have conversation as we're tattooing. I've gotten to know his kids. He's gotten to know my kids. We've known each other since high school. And it's one of those things where you become so close with your artist because obviously he's putting something on my body. So I trust him that much.
It's like you said, like the hairstylist, man. I've always said this too. It's like we're almost like, I call myself like Dr. Durb. I'm like the therapist to the client. I know things about, and all tattoo artists know things about their client and like confidentiality things. Because man, you're in such a, not like an intimate situation, but you're definitely in a different situation where you're away from everybody, you know, everything. And then the pain aspect kind of opens up the whole, the torture aspect opens you up, and people will literally, and you got to respect this as an artist, people will open up and tell you things that they probably don't tell many people because they know you don't know their family and their kids and their wife and everything. You're the tattooer. Like you said, like when a tattooer and a client makes that connection, especially if the client can sit back and relax and like just know that the artist is doing a good job or taken care of, then you just enjoy the experience. And tattooing is a one of a kind experience, man. You can't go anywhere else and experience that and have something for life, you know, something that changes you physically for life. The hair thing's definitely a good thing, but like the permanence of tattooing is something that you do to somebody that, I mean, literally it's with them for life. They take their clothes off, they'll change cars, change houses. The tattoos you put on people are like super important, you know, to them, to the artist. I call it the sacred throne when you're a tattooer, because you're doing more permanent stuff than they'll ever do in their life other than surgery. You know? And
it's, you know, like you said, how important each tattoo is to a person. You know, like when my mother passed away, the first thing I did was I called Adam and we put a hummingbird on my arm for my mom. That was literally the first thing I did, you know, like that that shows the power of these. People look at them, like you said, sometimes I live in a very small, country town, and there's still that, stigma around tattoos, almost like it's taboo still.
Yeah.
But it's like, all my tattoos have a deep meaning with me, and they all show. And do you regret this or regret that? No, because if I look at it, it reminds me of that point in my life, and it takes me back to that moment and what I felt when I was 15, getting the Scream tattooed on my arm. Like that's what that is to me, and it's so important, and it's so cool to have this conversation with you, man.
Yeah, definitely. No, tattoos are one of the most important things to people in their lives. And like you said, like, a lot of people are asking me, like, what should I get for my first one? I do stuff like that. Like, think of something that's going to represent your family or your bloodline, or something you've been into for a long time. Don't go out
something you're going to be proud of, man.
Yeah, and something that's not going to change. I say a lot of bloodlines, not really like boyfriend girlfriend tattoos, but like family things that won't change, over time.
Your kids, they ain't going nowhere, man. They're yours forever.
Yep, exactly. Oh, they're there forever. My son's still I got a granddaughter now, so.
Oh, well, congratulations. I've got 3 kids, and I hope to not have grandkids for a very long time. Oldest is 13. He can wait a while.
Take time. Yeah, take your time.
Well, man, we know what you're doing now, and we know what's going on in the future with St. Gabriel. But Durb, I want to go back to the past, and I want to talk about what got you started in the horror genre, being a horror fan. And your first horror movie was
The Exorcist, man. And it was against my will.
Oh no!
Yeah, because it was one of those things. Like, I didn't know what I was. I think I was like 6 years old, and it was on television at that point. My parents would watch it yearly, man. And I think I had to watch it like 4 fucking years, dude. But the first year, I kind of didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything. And, The Exorcist was making people run out of the theaters feeling like they were possessed. People were getting crazy over that movie. So me as a kid, this is what happened to me as a kid with The Exorcist, which I went on to really love the movie, and The Heretic and all that stuff too. Is they would have it on television. And the moment I got scared and was like, oh shit, because I grew up Catholic, man.
Yeah.
They raised me Catholic. I don't really follow religion now or anything like that. But like as a kid, when you're brainwashed and you know about the devil and this and that, I didn't know what the hell that movie was. And it was on cable television, and they had it blasted on the television, on like the screen, had friends over.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember hiding under like a blanket, trying because I was too afraid to even leave the room.
Yeah.
I was too afraid to go to my bedroom, man. I was going to get possessed, And
I grew up very Christian, so I still have my beliefs in Jesus Christ. I don't follow organized religion, but I do still have my beliefs. And, to each their own. That's how I've always felt. I'm not going to preach to you. I appreciate people not preaching to me. Yeah. But when you do grow up with, a Christ-like figure, and then you watch a movie like The Exorcist, I think it does hit a little closer to home, because we've learned about these things in church.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I can only imagine. And I've told this story a couple times on the podcast. For repeat viewers, I'm sorry you have to hear this again, but I grew up in a video store. My parents owned a video store, and the thing with The Exorcist, it'll always have a stigma to me, because that's the only movie my mom ever shut off. Every other movie, it was fine, it was good.
Because it was
my mom
scary.
Literally shut off The Exorcist. It was like, we are not finishing this. This is too much. We're not
going there. Yeah, my parents would watch the whole thing, and then I was, like I said, I was too afraid to leave the room. I'd have to sleep in their bed as a kid for like 4 or 5 days after they played that movie every year, man, for like 4 years, So that's my first like horror movie that I remember that like kind of mentally scarred me. But at the same time, as I got older and you realize obviously it's fake, and you see documentaries and all this stuff, it kind of grows your curiosity about how that made you feel. And like back then it was fear, but it was adrenaline and all, So
and I've always said The Exorcist is not my favorite horror movie, but I do think in my heart that The Exorcist is the scariest movie that's ever been made. And you'll never get a reaction like The Exorcist got when it was released. You were talking, people were running out of the theater thinking they were possessed, they were puking, grown men were crying. Like, you don't get anything like that now. And The Exorcist really set that bar.
Yeah, that was me when I was 6, trying to run out of the room, wanting to vomit. So later on, it's funny because when I was 18, I went and I've had it covered up since, but I had a portrait of The Exorcist tattooed on the inside of my arm, man. I'd have to dig up photos, but I got it covered up probably only like 7-8 years ago. I got it covered up. But no, I had a portrait of the Exorcist right here that I'd wake up next to every day, like, ah. So I finally got that. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff like lasered off once one of my friends had a laser removal company and stuff like that. So I got that lasered off just because I was like, I don't want to wake up next to that bitch every day. Crazy looking. So
that's awesome, man.
That was definitely the most scarring film that I've watched.
Right. And in a film that is monumental in epic scenes, what do you think is the scene that affected you the most?
I mean, definitely the head spinning around, he's like, Durb, he's like, and he yanks back around. That probably was the most like traumatic. The bed wobbling too. That's one of the scenes that really fucked me up, was when the mom, when she's like, help me, and then the bed's like shaking and the mom jumps on the bed with her. That is when I didn't want to go to my bedroom by myself, because I thought I was like, is that my bed rocking? Just freaking myself out, which
mind over matter, man.
Jesus, so it's it was a mind over matter thing. So I'd say that was probably some of the scarier ones that kind of like affected me personally. Thinking your bed's rocking every night of your life.
So, and another thing about The Exorcist that people often forget is there's a lot of beautiful cinematography throughout this movie too. When you get some of this right here is honestly one of my favorite shots in all cinema. Dude, when he first gets out of the car and he's just standing there under the street light with the fog rising.
You can see her eyes kind of on the top part, just waiting.
Yes, fucking beautiful. And
the way it's shot, the music, tubular bells, all that stuff on it. Just like, dude, I don't know, man. They threw together a masterpiece, and I think even nowadays it still holds up.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I love this film to this day. You put it on at any time, I can watch it. Now, let's say we're going out to a bar, there, me and you, and some guy just drunkenly walks up to us and brings up The Exorcist. What is the first thing that pops in your head when someone brings up The Exorcist?
The one, I just see the image of the face, or green ass cut up face,
Yeah.
I would say that the crucifix scene where she's like, using the crucifix, things like that, And
see, I didn't understand that when I was a kid, man. I just thought she was stabbing herself. Like, obviously, as a young boy, I didn't know what sex was. I didn't know what masturbation was at a young age. So to me, it was just a little girl stabbing herself. Now, the older I got, I was like, oh my God. And then you watch these documentaries about the people that took her, Linda Blair, when she was, young little Linda. Like, they took her backstage and they were like, you know how to masturbate? You know what masturbation is? Stuff that would never and should never get talked about today.
Yeah, right? For real. You're going to take this cross and this is what you're going to do. You're going to say this while you're doing it. It's like,
so dark, man.
Yeah. So it was crazy, man. A monumental film. Since then, like, I think after that too, like possession movies were always kind of like one of those ones I was like, that always kind of like were, I guess, kind of my favorites. After that, they scare you so bad that they end up being that genre kind of becomes your favorite.
And it becomes more of there's more realistic.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, like, there's more of a realism when that happens.
Yeah. Well, especially when you grew up like religious too. You're like, oh shit.
Right.
There's definitely more of a realism to it.
Yeah. It is not very much fun.
No.
So we talked about which scene affected you the most, Durb, but now I want to go a little bit deeper into that. Now, as an adult, what would you say your favorite scene from The Exorcist is?
Favorite scene now, like you said, probably one of the entrance ones where the priest is actually like showing up. I don't know. There's like a weird, psycho part where when I'm watching it, when she's trying to get into the one priest's head and the other priest is like, ignore him, don't fall for it. Like, that was always kind of interesting how the devil was trying to like trick him into stuff and talking like his mother and bringing things up and stuff like that. That was always interesting because that played on the psycho kind of part of it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's another one of those things where obviously you have two scenes that I talk about a lot. One wasn't in the original theatrical cut, but we've all seen it in the director's cut, where she comes down the stairs backwards.
Spider walk,
with the crab walk. Yeah, like that to me. Oh my God.
She just start screaming too, right? Like, ah! Does blood come out or some shit at that point?
Yes, it does.
I mean, it's
Blood
like
comes out of her mouth too.
freaky, yeah. And she just starts
Yeah,
screaming.
Like that. Oh my god, dude, like,
Yeah,
I got little emo goosebumps right now
yeah,
just
dude.
thinking about it, man.
Yeah, but they
That and
didn't put that in there,
obviously
man.
the pea soup with the puking with the pea soup. A
Yeah.
buddy of mine always told me if he ever gets to meet Linda Blair at a con or something, he's gonna take a can of pea soup and just ask her to sign that for him. I was like, that's fucking brilliant, dude.
That'll sell for millions.
Right.
Holy
So
shit.
I got just a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, man.
Now we're going to expand here a little bit. We talked about The Exorcist, and whenever I talk about a movie that's part of a franchise, I always want to bring the whole franchise into the picture. And when I talk about the Exorcist franchise, I don't mean any of the offshoots of the exorcism of or anything like that, but we're talking about Exorcist, The Heretic, Exorcist 3, Exorcist, the beginning, and the last exorcism. Of those films, which one would you say is your favorite of the Exorcist franchise?
Probably Exorcist 3. You know, where he's like, where they bring the priest back from like the original one and things like that. And then all this, you know, scenes in the cell when he's in there, just the old lady. So I thought The Heretic was good, but it was weird, you know, with her fucking. But Exorcist 3 was definitely my favorite because the original priest came back and showing kind of like how he ended up staying possessed. And
it's funny you say that, man, because I just did a franchise ranking with a buddy of mine, and I said on there, I think the best made one is The Exorcist, but my favorite is The Exorcist 3 because it has that still that possession aspect to it, but it's almost a slasher film at the same time. So you have that psychological slasher going on, which I grew up a huge slasher fan. And it has the best jump scare of all time. But, you know, the lady with the scissors coming out.
Yeah, dude, behind him. In the hallway. Yeah. Yeah, like you said, I think that the original Exorcist, I guess the artistic way it was done and kind of setting that direction with the Exorcist movies was probably the best, the most well-made one as far as suspense and true horror. But like the third one, I like how, like I said, how it ties together some stuff from the first one. It doesn't have much about the heretic in it, though.
And see, honestly, man, and you might crucify me, no pun intended, for this. I just released a top 10 least favorite horror films, and The Heretic was my number one on that list. I can't stand that movie.
I'd have to agree
I think that movie bastardizes the first one. But one thing I do want to bring up real quick before we get to our next question, something that I'm glad you brought up. In The Exorcist 3, one of the best scenes, I think, in that whole movie is the old lady crawling on the ceiling.
Oh, yeah. And the nursing home.
When you have the Blu-ray and they show you how they did that scene, they literally just filmed her crawling on the floor and then overdubbed it over top of him. And it looks flawless for when they did it. You know, at that time, the special effects weren't what they are today. But man, that scene just looked so fucking crisp and it looked so great. And they did it just so practically, man. It was so good.
Yeah. That's probably, I mean, that old lady's creepy as shit, you know?
Dude.
But
just the way she spins her head and she's got that smile.
The scissor scene is that was in the hospital, right? Is that what that was? Yeah, that's probably one of like the biggest like jumps, like ever. By far. Yeah.
Oh, easily, because you're not expecting that at all. She shuts the door and then just like, holy shit! Like, and then it pans over. What's even worse is like it shows her getting ready to cut off her head, and then it pans to a headless Jesus Christ statue.
Yeah, the statue.
Holy shit!
That's all right. Point taken.
So we talked about The Exorcist as your first horror movie, and we talked about the franchise of The Exorcist, Durb. But for a second, I want to go scream on you here. What's your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
I mean, Exorcist, definitely. As weird as it is, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Ooh.
I like that a lot. Ravenous. I like Ravenous. Have you seen Ravenous?
I have not, but I will now.
Yeah, Ravenous is about a colonial town that was like kind of between the old mountains back like in the colonial days when people were moving across the country and they had to stay in this town. It was filled with cannibals, but the cannibals would actually gain strength and, you know, things from eating people. So it's lightly based off of an old colonial town, like off a true story where they were cannibals in the mountains, but they exaggerate how it gives you like superpowers and
fictionalizing reality, which I love. I love fictionalization of reality. I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, I think Bram Stoker's Dracula, I mean, I know it's not the scariest and stuff like that, but I love the whole Dracula thing. I like the way that's done, you know. I've visited Dracula's castles personally, so I've been over to Romania and
That's so dope, dude.
Yeah, gone to his original castle, and then I went to Castle Vlad as well, which is pretty much where he stayed before 3 days later, I think he got his head cut off or something like that.
God damn. See, and I don't think a movie has to be overly scary to be your favorite. My favorite of all time is House from '86.
Okay. Yeah,
like, and that's not an overly scary movie, but to me, it has fucking everything, man. It's a love story. It's a war story. It's a, you have the loss of a kid. You have everything in that movie. I adore that movie so much.
Yeah. I would say one of my favorite genres is like sci-fi horror, like with sci-fi, because I'm like a big sci-fi Star Wars,
dude,
stuff like that. And then growing up, I always liked Aliens, watching Aliens and Predators and things like that. So I would say some of the Alien movies are some of my favorites as well.
Dude, Alien has just the best tagline of all time. In space, no one can hear you scream. Yeah. That alone that's a horror sentence right there, man. Like that's a one line story right there, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so you've grown up with those too, like the Alien movies or stuff we kind of like grew up with, and they've all, pretty much all of them have been really, really good. Got
this right here, all the time, right next to
me. Right. Yeah, exactly. Have you seen Event Horizon?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, that was like that psychological sci-fi horror type stuff too. So I really like that genre too.
Anything with space horror, I think is terrifying because there's that fear of the unknown for one, and for two, where the fuck are you gonna go? Like you're stuck.
Right, you're not getting away. You're stuck in a spaceship.
Yeah, you're not gonna go drive away from this one, man.
Yeah, the stuff with the sci-fi horrors, like I like that unknown, like the movie Life. The one of the more modern ones, like it starts out just like a little speck and then grows into shit. So it's like that shit could probably happen.
Exactly.
And
I've always said that's the more, to me, the shit that, like, to me, the scariest movies are like 2012 or The Day After Tomorrow, like the end of the world type shit.
Yeah.
Because you ain't stopping this, man. And that's shit. It's gonna happen, no matter how hard you believe it's not. It's gonna happen. And facing your own, mortality like that. That scares me, dude. Like, I got kids to think about.
Have you seen Melancholia? It's not really like a horror movie, but it's about a planet. Just one day we see something out in the sky, and then it's a planet that's coming directly at Earth, and we collide with it. But it's inevitable. Kind of one of those things, like you're not getting away, and like one day it's just like you can see it getting ready to collide. So yeah, that's a pretty crazy movie. It's not really a horror movie, but it's a finality movie.
It fucking sounds like horror to me.
You're not stopping space.
Right. All right, brother. Well, I've had a blast with you. I got one more question for you before I let you go. We always end these with a skull count. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I got to ask. We go back to The Exorcist, and we're ranking it 0 to 5 skulls, 0 being the worst and 5 being the best. Now, we're not ranking this on production. We're not being film critics here, the score, nothing like that. We're ranking this strictly on what it means to you and how much this movie affected you as a child. So like I said, 0 being the worst and 5 being the best. You can use half and quarter skulls. What would your ranking of The Exorcist be?
I mean, I'm kind of still mentally scarred by it. So, I'd give it a 5 for real.
For sure.
I would say 4.5, but I can't even think of anything that outdoes that's really made that type of an impact horror-wise to me. That even just sent me into that direction of kind of liking that, that fear.
It's always I always liken it to drugs, and I'm not condoning drug use by any stretch. Anybody, don't go use drugs, but you do that, and then you're always chasing that dragon, trying to get that first high again.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing to me with horror. When I get super scared, I'm always chasing that again. I want to feel that adrenaline again. So it's always chasing the dragon of a horror movie.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd give it a 5, man, just because of the impact that it's had and the impact it's had on other people. Right. It'd be one thing if it was just like this movie that I liked that nobody really knew about, but like it's affected a lot of people. I don't know how many
it revolutionized movies, period.
Yeah. I don't know how many kids nowadays are like watching The Exorcist, but like up to our generation, man, I think that's the king of horror movies to me, as far as true, and it's based off true events and things like that. So
see, I think the only movie in my lifetime that had even that kind of impact on society was the Blair Witch Project, because when that came out, that really exploded found footage, and people were debating, is this real? Is this not? We didn't have Google in our pocket to just pull out. I remember, dude, being in like 7th grade, little badass Ken with his green Liberty spikes and leather jacket with Ramones patch on the back, smoking a cigarette in Sarah Tuckerman's front yard. Like, and that shit's real, man. That was my cousin's best friend,
Trying to
bro.
figure out.
She's fucking dead, man. They never found her.
And that's what it was. Yeah, people were trying to debate whether or not it was real, and the people survived, and this and that. Yeah, but that was one of those ones where it's like you almost fuck yourself mentally just by watching it. You know, like, is it real? What's out there?
Right.
You know, so.
And like I said, we didn't have Google in our pockets at that time, so you couldn't just go do the research. You're just like, oh my God, it doesn't look, this looks like a real video camera, man. Those people are fucking dead. You know, like,
look creepy as shit. And then like The Exorcist, did you watch part 2?
Yeah. Awful. See, I didn't mind the newest one they just did, The Blair Witch Project. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's back to found footage, and it's Heather's little brother going back out 20 years later to those woods to try to find her. And
write this down, man.
It's I believe it's either on Shudder or Amazon Prime.
Okay.
But it's just called The Blair Witch Project. It just came out a couple years ago, really under the radar. When they filmed it as just called The Woods, so it wouldn't leak out.
Yeah.
But man, I wish it would have blown up more than it did, because this, to me, it's much like The Exorcist, where I consider The Exorcist 3 the true sequel to The Exorcist. I consider The Blair Witch Project as the true sequel to Blair Witch Project, because it continues 20 years later, and Heather Donahue makes an appearance in the movie. So, I mean, it's super dope, dude. You should definitely give that a check out and text me and let me know what you think.
Yeah, I wrote it down, actually. I'm probably going to watch that tonight. My plan tonight, because in honor of this podcast, is I'm going to watch horror movies all night.
I got Ravenous and Melancholia written down right here.
Yeah, yeah. I think you'll like Ravenous. It's got it's different. It feels colonial, you know?
Right.
And it's easy.
So I'm down, man. It's just me and the kids tonight. So it's gonna be a Ravenous type of night around the Sledge House.
Yeah, that's a good one. Have you watched Fright Night, obviously?
Oh yeah.
That's another one of my favorites.
Mother says dinner is in the oven.
Yeah.
That's love it, dude. Favorite vampire movie. It's down, and I love it.
Yeah, Fright Night would be my favorite vampire movie.
For sure. Oh, dude, hands down, no questions asked. Yeah. But Durb, don't go anywhere, man. I got a couple more questions and a couple offers for you. Everybody else, as always, thank you for watching. I know I said this at the beginning, but please make sure you're following his social media. All the links are down here in the description. You will not regret it. He's an artist that hones his craft. So, as always, guys, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.